Before we go into the operation and control of the T-38A flight director system, let us compare the conventional instrument panel of the T-37, which most of you have flown, with that of the improved instrument panel of the T-38. On closer examination, you will note that the major innovation in the T-38 panel is that package known as the flight director system, which contains two newly developed flight instruments: the Attitude Director Indicator, ADI, and the Horizontal Situation Indicator, HSI. This improvement is more than just the consolidation of instruments. On the conventional instrument panel, simple corrections required a series of mental calculations and physical responses. With this new flight director system, these calculations are computed, as we shall soon see. Suppose we take a closer look at the ADI and the HSI of the T-38 instrument panel. First, to become familiar with the nomenclature of the component parts and the purpose of these instruments. Later, we shall see how these two instruments function as a navigational system. The ADI has four separate functions. It provides an all-attitude indicator, a turn and slip indicator, pitch and bank steering bars, and a glide slope indicator. The attitude sphere and the miniature aircraft make up the attitude indicator function of this instrument. It is used almost exactly as the attitude indicator in the T-37, with some improvements. The attitude sphere is conveniently marked off in degrees above and below the level flight attitude. It is adjustable rather than the miniature aircraft, and the sphere rotates through 360 degrees of pitch or roll. Also, you can immediately detect attitudes by simply referring to the color of the sphere. Light color if the nose is above the horizon, dark color with perspective lines if the nose is below the horizon. There is no controlled precession at vertical attitudes to confuse you on this attitude indicator, since it displays a true picture, regardless of pitch or bank magnitude. The turn and slip indicator on the bottom of the ADI is a remotely controlled instrument. Its use is conventional. The slip indicator is the standard ball type. The bank steering bar has two separate functions. The TACAN manual mode provides steering commands and enables the pilot to maintain desired headings. The ILS normal mode provides steering commands which will allow us to intercept and maintain an ILS localizer beam. The pitch steering bar is in view only in the ILS normal mode. It shows you the amount of pitch correction necessary to fly the ILS glide slope. The glide slope indicator displays your actual position in relation to the ILS glide slope. You also have several minor but still important components. The miniature aircraft, which displays your pitch and bank relative to the horizon. The bank pointer and indices, which indicate the degree and direction of bank. The pitch trim knob that adjusts the attitude sphere. And the warning flags that indicate the reliability of the localizer and glide slope signals. The horizontal situation indicator is in most respects a combination ID 249 and ID 250. Let's look at some of its components. The aircraft symbol shows your angular relationship to any selected TACAN or ILS localizer course. The course line is represented by the course deviation indicator. The compass card indicates the magnetic heading and may also be operated as a simple directional gyro. The bearing indicator shows the magnetic bearing to the selected TACAN station. In TACAN normal, the heading marker may be used as a memory reference. If bank steering is desired, select the manual mode. Shortly, we will see how these are used in flight. The range indicator shows slant range to the selected TACAN station in nautical miles. TACAN range information is available even in the ILS or localizer mode. The course arrowhead points to the course you have selected on the compass card. This course also appears in the course selector window. The tail of the arrow shows the course reciprocal. The to from indicator shows to when the selected course is within 90 degrees of the direct course to the TACAN station. The lubber line is a fixed reference under which the magnetic heading of the aircraft is read. A thorough knowledge of the component parts of the attitude director indicator and the horizontal situation indicator will enable you to understand more easily the capabilities of the flight director system. Now, let's see how these instruments are used during an actual cross-country flight. You've filed your flight plan, and you're standing by for ATC clearance.
Air Force Jet 00568, I have your ATC clearance. Are you ready to copy?
This is Air Force Jet 00568. Roger.
ATC clears Air Force Jet 00568 to Randolph TACAN via direct Austin, Jet 21 Victor to Mineral Wells, flight plan route. Climb departure route number 1 to VFR on top. Report reaching VFR on top. Read back.
ATC clears Air Force Jet 00568 to Randolph TACAN via direct Austin. You've completed your ATC clearance, started your engines, and received clearance to taxi. This will be a simulated IFR round-robin flight. Now complete your instrument cockpit checklist. Your checklist is complete, and the tower has cleared you for takeoff. The instructor will line up the aircraft on the runway. Recheck your bank steering bar to see that it's centered. This bar will be used to maintain directional control during the takeoff roll. The instructor has turned over the controls to you, and you're ready for takeoff. To the instructor, the takeoff roll looks like this. But all you can see are the instruments. Just keep the bank steering bar centered, and you'll take off down the middle of the runway. Remember that the bank steering bar will only bring you back to your heading, not to the center of the runway. Therefore, keep the bar centered during takeoff roll. Apply initial back pressure at 140 knots. Establish an 8-degree nose-high pitch attitude. You'll become airborne between 155 and 160 knots. When the instruments indicate a 500 foot per minute climb and airspeed is at 200 knots, retract the landing gear. Acceleration is so rapid that flaps can be retracted immediately. Maintain your 8-degree pitch attitude until airspeed approaches 300 knots, then reduce throttles to military. There will be little or no change in pitch attitude, since your climb angle will also be approximately 8 degrees. Now that you've reached mission altitude, let's intercept the course. Our first reporting fix is Austin. The course is 360 degrees. Set this into the course window. Locate the course you've selected on the compass card. Proceed around the card to the bearing indicator. Any heading beyond the bearing indicator will provide an intercept to the selected course. In this case, we'll go 30 degrees beyond the bearing indicator. This is our intercept heading. The position of the aircraft symbol with relation to the course deviation indicator clearly shows your interception angle. When you are within 10 degrees of your course, the course deviation indicator will start to move. Depending on how fast it's moving, turn to roll out with the course deviation indicator lined up with the aircraft symbol. Now you're on course, and the following indications are displayed on the HSI. Bearing indicator is directly above the head of the course arrow, and the course deviation indicator is centered to line up with head and tail of the course arrow and the aircraft symbol. The to from indicator indicates to and points to the head of the course arrow. Everything's lined up, so you're on course, and according to your range indicator, 39 miles from your first station. You're now in the vicinity of the station and can tell by the instruments that you're entering the cone of confusion, where bearing information will be unreliable. However, the range indicator will continue to give you accurate slant range. The only accurate indication of station passage is the point at which the range indicator stops decreasing. Now set the next course in the course selector window and turn to the outbound heading. You may still be in the cone of confusion, but fly the new heading to allow the bearing indicator to stabilize. Turn toward the desired course the number of degrees the bearing indicator is displaced from the lower lubber line. In this case, 15 degrees. But in no case turn more than 45 degrees. Maintain this 15-degree correction and intercept the outbound course. This is the standard method of intercepting a course immediately after station passage. Maintain the course until you see the need for a correction. Initiate a correction anytime displacement of the CDI indicates the need for it. Normally, a correction of between 20 and 45 degrees will be sufficient to put you back on course. In this case, you are using a 30-degree interception angle. When you reach your course, roll out with sufficient drift correction to maintain course. Now you're on the last leg of the flight, on course to Randolph-Tacan.
Air Force Jet 00568, this is San Antonio approach control. You are cleared via the 20-mile arc to the Randolph-Tacan holding pattern. Hold on the 132-degree radial between 10 and 20 miles. Report established in the holding pattern.
As you intercept the 20-mile arc, turn so that the bearing indicator is on your wingtip. Continue along this 20-mile arc and set the 132-degree holding course in the course selector window. When you intercept the holding course, the course deviation indicator will center itself on the aircraft symbol. After crossing the holding course, turn to the outbound heading, 312 degrees. Maintain this outbound heading until you reach the 10-mile arc. This is the outbound limit, so turn to intercept the 132-degree holding course.
Air Force Jet 00568, this is San Antonio approach control. You are cleared for TACAN ILS approach. Report leaving 20,000.
Air Force Jet 00568, roger. Reduce power to 80% and simultaneously lower the nose 10 degrees on the attitude sphere. As the airspeed approaches 270 knots, extend the speed brakes. Maintain your course until reaching the penetration turn altitude. Before reaching penetration turn altitude, set the inbound course in the course window. In this case, 320 degrees. When you reach 12,000 feet, start your penetration turn. Place the navigation mode switch in localizer when the aircraft heading is within 45 degrees of the final approach course. Maintain an angle of bank that will keep the bank steering bar centered. In this position, the bank steering bar will roll you out with a 45-degree interception angle to the ILS course. As you intercept the ILS course, the bank steering bar will again deviate from center. Bank the aircraft to center the bar, which will roll you out on course. Select the ILS mode. The ILS pitch steering bar now appears. Extend the landing gear and 60% flaps. Slow to approach airspeed, which for this fuel load is 155 knots. We're approaching the outer marker. Now we'll enter the glide path. Lower the nose about 3 degrees and reduce power slightly. Keep the pitch and bank steering bars centered throughout the approach. Cross-check the course deviation indicator and the glide slope indicator to ensure that you are proceeding down the center line on glide slope. These indicators have separate functions. The course deviation indicator tells you where you are in relation to the center line. For instance, if you drift off to the left, the course deviation indicator moves to the right. The bank steering bar, which has also moved to the right, indicates the correction necessary to bring you back to course. Bank right until the bank steering bar is centered. Keeping this bar centered will steer you back to course. The other pair of indicators, the glide slope indicator and the pitch steering bar, give you the same type of information, only in pitch. For instance, if you drift below center line, the two indicators will move above center, and you'll increase your pitch attitude to center the pitch steering bar. As you approach the glide slope, the indicator will move to center. Now you're approaching the middle marker. When the marker beacon light starts flashing, you're approaching touchdown. But first, let's practice a missed approach and land from a GCA. Add 100% power and follow the same procedures as you did for your instrument takeoff. Accelerate to 220 knots and reduce power to 90%. Climb to the missed approach altitude at 220 knots. Turn the navigation mode selector switch to TACAN position and the steering mode switch to manual. We'll practice using the manual mode until reaching the base leg.
Air Force Jet 568, turn right to 140, 2,300 feet, downwind.
Keep the bank steering bar centered to hold your heading. Now you're on the downwind leg. Perform your initial cockpit check. Switch to TACAN normal, and we'll use the heading marker for the next turn.
Air Force Jet 568, turn right, 230, 2,300. Base.
Roger. Right 230, 2,300. On base leg, the airspeed will be 185 knots with this fuel load. Extend the gear. On final approach, lower 60% flaps and slow the aircraft to 155 knots. Normal selection will be used on final because it would be difficult to set in headings desired when using the bank steering bar. From here on, your configuration, airspeed, and procedures are the same as for ILS. Full flaps may be lowered when the runway is in sight. Flight director systems are modern equipment used in first-line operational aircraft. If you conscientiously apply yourself, you'll find that instrument flying in the T-38A will prepare you to take your place as a pilot in today's all-weather Air Force.